I have lived in Rockdale County for about 80 years, and finished high school here, and have come back here and lived ever since. I have seen a lot of changes over the years. As I said, over during my lifespan, it's over half of the life of Rockdale County, and so I've seen a lot of changes. From the time that we had one commissioner up until now, we have three. I remember when the population was about 27 or 28,000. Now it's close to 100. So I've seen a lot of changes over the years. Some have been good, some have not been quite so good. In the city of Conyers, I've seen mayors from, I guess from the guy we have now, all the way back to Charlotte Gailey. So that spans a lot of years between Vince and Charlie. And I remember when the one commissioner, the lone commissioner, could make all decisions for Rockdale County. And he did have an advisory committee, but still the final decision was up to one sole commissioner. And that held true until about the 1970s. I have seen this community grow from basically agricultural to industrial to a pretty good mix of all three now. Even though agriculture has gone from #1 probably all the way down to zero almost, but I can remember when there were 2 cotton gins in downtown Conyers, and also there were 3 automobile dealerships: Fred Davis, Hicks, and so Fred Davis was a Ford, Hicks was Chevrolet, and Thacker was the Chrysler and Plymouth dealers. So even though we were small, we had 3 automobile dealerships. Schools, of course, were segregated at the time. I've seen it go from a segregated school system to an integrated school system. I've seen, even after integration, no black school principals until probably in the late 80s, when Ms. Young, Dr. Young, became a principal. And she was the first black principal since Mr. Edwards, who was the principal at the old black school. The relations between the races in Rockdale County has always been real good in my estimation. Not that it was perfect, but it was better than most communities around. School integration went fairly smooth. And even the transition in government has gone fairly smoothly. So I'm really proud of the community. It's come a long ways in 150 years. That I remember when there were no shopping centers in Rockdale County. We only had the downtown. We had 3 or 4 grocery stores, and they delivered, which they're getting back to now. Yeah. And we had, a few of the mom and pop businesses. Well, most of them were mom and pop businesses. We had very few chain businesses early, when I was a young man. So it's really grown. We didn't have a McDonald's or Applebee's or any of these fancy restaurants that we have now. But we did have Lewis Kent, who had a little cafe downtown. And we had a few other little small mom and pop businesses, but everybody knew everybody, and both black and white knew everybody in the county. And so if you did something wrong before you got home, they knew about it. But I'm proud of this community. It's done really well. I don't know which one was the biggest. Each one had an effect. One was that we went through a couple of transitions. At one time, we got what I call the white flight from Atlanta into DeKalb County. Moved here, So the county became predominantly white at that time. Then when the the black flight, I guess you might call it, infiltrated into Rockdale County. Rockdale eventually transformed into a predominantly black county. The reason for that, I really don't know, but I think the transition has been smooth, even though it hasn't been perfect. We have really observed some white flight from Rockdale County. And I've said many times, if you want to stop the black people from coming here, quit leaving here. Because if you don't leave your house, a black guy can't buy it. So, just jokingly say that because I really like diversity. I think America is about diversity. Our history is about diversity, even though it hasn't always been smooth. It's one of the things that makes us great here is the diversity and the acceptance of diversity, even though there have been a lot of rough patches. There's no other country that has gone through what America has gone through and is still surviving and still trying its best to accept diversity and make it work. And it can work if we, on both sides, I hate to say on both sides, but if both sides would just accept people for who they are instead of what you think they should be or shouldn't be. So, but Rockdale County is good. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I mean, I could live anywhere. I wanted to probably, but I choose to live in Rockdale County. I did years ago, and I still do today.
So that was your one. Did you have other ones?
Well, I like the setup of the balance between businesses, industry, and residential here. These are the main things that I think has kept this community vibrant. Is the factories that we have here, the jobs that are being offered here, available here. That's what keeps us going. At one time, we only had, as I said, the cotton gins, the Callaway mills, and then Lithonia Lighting came along during the transition. All of that was good. And then Industrial Boulevard, which is on the west side of Main Street, provided a lot of jobs for a lot of people over the years, which transformed us from an agricultural community into the mostly industrial community at that time. I lived on Main Street. The pavement in right in my house, because that was the first house in the black community on Main Street. It was difficult. It was different than it is now in that, as I said, the pavement ended at our property line, and everything east of us was the white community, everything west of us was black community. So we didn't really enjoy many of the amenities that the government had to offer at that time, as far as having paved streets, sidewalks, street lights, etc. But we were used to it, so it didn't really matter to us because we hadn't experienced anything better. When I look back on it now, it looks a lot different. But at that time, that was just normal because that's the way it was in every community. One of my better friends growing up, when I was a small kid, was a white kid up the street. And we played together every day. Until we got to be teenagers, then we went our separate ways pretty much. But we didn't think anything about it. It was just the kid up the street, and I was the kid down the street. But there were certain places we could not go. We could go to the theater, but we had to sit upstairs. We couldn't go to the concession stand downstairs at all. We could sit at the doorway and ask for what we wanted, like the popcorn or the candy or whatever. And at that time, that was normal. We really thought nothing about it. We thought that was the way things were supposed to be. I know that's the way they were. I found out later they wasn't the way it's supposed to be. But at the time, it was better than what it was before us. Just as now, it's better than it was when I was a kid. So there were things we could do, other things we could not do. Schools were segregated. We had good teachers. We didn't have the best supplies. We got the school books that were passed over from the white school over to us with some nice little notes in there from our white counterparts across the way, but that's okay. The content was the same. History doesn't change. The past history doesn't change. Future history might. Present history might. Past history does not change. Even though there's parts of it I wish we could forget, but we can't change it. So we just have to look forward and move forward, which I think this community has done on several occasions. I want to congratulate Rockdale County for having 150 years of prosperity, history making. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, as I said before. This is where I want to be. Things are not perfect here. Things have never been perfect here. Probably things will never be perfect here. But things are good here. And we have always been open to change, always accepted change. And we are going through some changing times now, and probably the most challenging times that we've ever had. But as Americans, we need to stick together. And I've said this many times before too, is that people who move here should come here and, just accept what we have here. Because if this place wasn't better than the place you left, you'd still be there. So don't come here and try to change this place and the way you came from, because if it's so good, you would have still been there. Something brought you to Rockdale County, embrace it, improve it, and let's move on. I look forward to the next few years that I have left on this earth, and then they will be spent in Rockdale County, because there's no better place on earth.